tutorial is going to be on the ubi belt, and we're going to be doing it in a bow version. I love the way bows sort of adorn the back of dresses and how they can really elevate a look. I just wanted to create a bow belt that can be added to different kinds of outfits and dresses to really elevate the look. So let's get started on creating our belt. First, we're going to need to cover our supplies. So I'm going to be doing the half scale version. So that's why I have this half scale model. I'm also going to be using some satin fabric, lightweight, as well as scissors. I like to have different types of scissors. Some interfacing woven, fusible. I'm also going to be using a tape measurer. You can use a 120 for your full scale. I'm going to be using the 60-inch. I also have a needle and thread, dressmaking pins, 2 rulers, marking pencil, seam ripper, a pencil, and we're ready to go. First, I'm going to create the ties. I'm going to fold my fabric in half and measure out. Again, this is a half scale version, so the measurements are different. Full scale will be about 70 inches on the fold. Once I have it, I'm going to mark it and just start to square everything out, coming out according to the measurements to create just actually one strip that's on the fold, and just put that to the side. Now we're going to create the center section for the belt. So how we do that is, first we measure out our side seams, and for the side seam of the full scale, we're going to go 3 inches for the sides. I should note that this is being cut and the fabric is double, and I'm doing this on the right side of the fabric. So actually I'm doing this on the side of the fabric that has more of a satin tint to it, and that's going to be on purpose. Okay, so now I'm going to make that center line, and now I want to create that slope look that the design has, where the sides are a little bit shorter and then the midsection comes up a little bit higher. So right now I'm just mapping out how to get a clean center line, and that's going to come about 5 inches down, whereas the side seams were 3 inches. This one is going to come down 5 inches, so it's going to sit a little higher than the side seams. And I'm still just trying to map everything out. And now I'm going to use that hip ruler just to create a nice curve. Okay. The screen is a little blurry because I got completely out of focus, and it was just too far gone to try to go back and edit it. So I'm just trying to do as much storytelling about it so that you guys know what was done. So now I'm adding about a 1/2 inch seam allowance all around. And that's just to ensure that I have space to do the rest of my sewing. So yep, take my scissors and I cut right around that seam allowance. Next, I'm going to add my right side to my woven interfacing. So this is a fusible interfacing, and it's fusible, it's lightweight, and I'm going to use it. And basically I take a couple of pins and initially just make sure that sticky side is facing the right side of the fabric, that satin side. And I use that as a pattern to just kind of cut around it. Always make sure that interfacing is on the rough edges, especially if it is something that you're going to have to use as fusible, because you want to make sure it irons down perfectly. So then I take most of the pins off before I iron it, because I don't want to get any glue or anything on the pins. Okay, normally I would use some sort of covering, that way I didn't get any glue, but that's fine, it's a small piece. So now we're going to go back to the tie. So now we're going to open up that fabric and we're going to cut right down that fold line, because this is going to give us 2 even symmetrical ties. So we're going to take each tie and we're going to fold it in half. I'm going to fold it on the, you're going to have the right sides facing, and you're going to have those wrong sides, and for me that's the surface that's less shiny. And you're going to pin the shinier surfaces together, because this is going to be eventually flipped the other way. So we're going to turn it right side out. So basically, once you're done, you sew it, you run it under the sewing machine, and you just leave one side open. That way it is going to be used to fasten the sides. I also go up 1 inch and sew diagonally just so I can have that nice point that those ties have at the very bottom. So you can do that before or after you're done sewing. So next we have the ties, and now we just need to clip those ends. Anytime you're working with curves or corners, you always want to make sure you clip the ends. That way it creates a nice clean turnover for you to be able to work. So I've done my clips, and now it's time for me to just go ahead and turn these over. Normally you would use a loop turner. However, because this is a little bit wider, you can just go ahead and use your fingers. I go over tools in great detail in my sewing courses on Lady Cloth U on Teachable, where I do show you how to use all kinds of useful tools. Okay, now that we have our ties, we go back to our centerpiece. We have our fusible put together, and now we're going to put our pieces together. So first what we want to do is take the side with the interfacing and that wrong side facing up, and we're going to just pin the side. So you're going to take that raw open edge that you didn't close, and you're just going to pin it to the sides, to the very edges of it. Make sure those edges match up. And you're going to do the same thing to the other side, making sure that the ties face inward, almost like they're kissing each other. If they face outward, it's going to be very difficult when it's time for you to sew that together and turn them over. So now we have the interfacing, we have the wrong side out, we have those pinned there. Okay, you go to the sewing machine after this, just making sure those sides match up so that you know what to do next. So now we're going to go to the sewing machine and sort of sew those sides up just to secure them in place. Now we're going to match our sides together and begin pinning all around. Just be careful as you're pinning so that you don't catch any of the ties in your pins or in your sewing. So we pin all around and take it to our sewing machine, making sure we leave out a portion to get turned inside out. Also, again, clip your ends. That way it's easy for you to have a nice clean turnover. So that's what we do. We turn our project inside, well, out, right side out now. And now we're beginning to see that wrong side has a less shine to it. The right side has more of a shine to it, and that lets us know which side of the belt goes which way when we're putting it on. Then we just tuck in those raw edges and we pin it down, and you can either hand baste it or you can top stitch it over the machine in a light color thread. And you want to make sure you press that down nice and neatly before we begin to take it to the model to tie it. And this is the finished half scale model of the tie belt. So this can be tied in 2 ways. The first is just a normal tie where the main part of the belt is there to the face, and you just take the bows, and it looks very beautiful and dramatic when it's in the full scale because it's like draping and dragging. So that is the half scale. The other way is the ubi belt style, where we take the ties forward and we create a belt design as well. And this can be worn more casually with like a, a dress or a button-up shirt. Nice, clean, classic look of the belt. Again, I love this design because it can be done with dresses and casual wear. So that concludes our ubi belt tutorial. Thank you guys for joining me, and I hope to have you guys with me again real soon. Thanks. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Videos are uploaded weekly covering dressmaking, fashion, lectures, and more. Enroll in Lady Cloth U on Teachable for dressmaking and fashion design courses. See you again soon.